So on that wonderful note, let's begin the Realty Plus e-conclave with the first session of the day on the topic Building Future Ready Residential Real Estate Portfolio. And let me inform our speakers of this panel. The session will be chaired by Mr. Gautam Saraf, Managing Director, Mumbai and New Business India, Cushman and Wakefield. He steers the firm's business growth in the region, and in 15 years of service at Cushman and Wakefield, Gautam has been instrumental in growing the firm's revenue multifold with innovative service offerings for occupiers as well as investors. Introducing our speakers in an alphabetical order, I welcome Mr. Ashok Mohanani, Chairman Ekta World. He's a lawyer by qualification and he set up Ekta Group in 1987 with modest projects which has grown in leaps and bounds to be a firm today. Currently, he's also on the managing committee as the president of Naredco West, a real estate development body under the aegis of Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, Government of India. Our next speaker, I introduce Mr. Chintan Sheth, Director Ashwin Sheth Group. Chintan Sheth holds a master's degree in computer science and engineering from the US, and with the vision of life by design, he's successfully building on the equity of the brand. His portfolio of responsibilities include engineering, marketing, and sales, among many others. Our next panel member is Mr. Pankaj Kapoor, founder and managing director, Liases Foras Real Estate Rating and Research Private Limited. Pankaj Kapoor has 20 plus years of experience in the field of valuation, consulting, and risk analytics. He's an acclaimed expert in analyzing and predicting real estate market trends in India. Pankaj is best known in the industry for bringing in scientific approach and for developing reliable market database. Our next panel member, let me introduce Mr. Ram Raheja, Director S. Raheja Realty. Ram Raheja is the third generation developer from the family. The S. Raheja Realty has been consistent in developing numerous landmark projects in luxury housing, dominantly in Mumbai, and has taken a modernized approach under the aegis of Ram Raheja. He brings a balance between the architecture and the market demands. Our next final panel member is Mr. Rohit Poddar, Managing Director, Poddar Housing and Development Limited. Rohit Poddar is a graduate from King's College, UK in Engineering and Management and a fellow of the Aspen Institute of Global Leadership. He drives Poddar Housing's growth and strategy, and he's also a trustee in the Poddar Foundation and the Poddar Shikshan Sanstha. So this was our eminent panel. I now request our moderator to please take over the proceedings.
Thank you, Sapna. A lot of positivity and optimism. A good time to be in this space right now. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be moderating this discussion on building future-ready residential real estate portfolio with this esteemed panel. The Indian residential sector has shown strong signs of recovery in recent quarters, despite the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We see developers reporting robust growth in bookings across segments. We could well be entering an upcycle phase within the residential space. Economic indicators are suggesting a repeat of the 2003 to 2010 upturn. Our historic analysis shows that since 1997, that Indian housing upcycle and downcycle lasts over 6 to 7 years. Not counting the unprecedented pandemic of year 2020, 2012 to 13, leading to 2019 was a prolonged downcycle, and 21 seems to be the first year of upcycle for us. Housing inventory is a 7-year low. Affordability has significantly improved at levels of 2004. Banks' risk appetite has gone up, and in October 2020, they had reduced the risk weightage on housing loans, thereby boosting confidence. And of course, the great news of 6.5% that Dr. Hiranandani just announced. With that, let me go to my first panelist, Ashok Mohanani sir of Ekta World. Ashokji, you have had over 3 decades of experience, one of the most prominent names in the real estate world, with commendable delivery track record, part of formidable platforms such as Naredco. The growth in residential has been a confluence of factors such as record low home loan rates, stamp duty cuts by various states, developer incentive, probably the best time to buy a home. And there seems to be an increase in demand of spacious homes post-COVID world. What is driving this demand and how are the developers adapting to this change? And leading on to it, is there a risk of inventory overhang? Ashokji?
So Gautam, very honestly, this demand was always there, okay? But it was a little perturbed, it was curved. And the pandemic actually played a vital role. People realized how important a home is for a family. So a family of 3 or 4 who were living in a 2-bedroom hall now felt that this space is, insufficient, and therefore they wanted to upgrade their lifestyles. This, very fact that even the millennials, Gautam, they were very comfortable, shifting spaces in every 2 years, 3 years, very happy living on lease, getting into, newer spaces. But they too realized, Gautam, that this is not it. This is not what we want. We want to actually, design our own space. And people realize that what it is, how important it is to have your own space, to design your own space, and to, and really, this also get a better output. Working from home really worked well for a very, long time, for almost 1.5 years. Now, of course, people are getting back. But the government, was, at least the Maharashtra government mainly, I give kudos to them, that they supported the industry tremendously. As you said, stamp duty, reduction of stamp duty for over 7 months. We saw, a reduction of more than 60%, and some places 50%, rest of Maharashtra. So this indeed, was the main factor to, to kind of realize the pent-up demand is already there, and that turned out to be, working very well for residential. Then moreover, then the home loans, as you said, as Mr. Niranjan also said, doctor said, that they have been the lowest, in his career and in all of our careers. So if you see 6.5% home loan rates, it's really a major boost which gave us. And then secondly, thirdly, it's about the premium reduction. So bottom line, the cost, was going off the roof. You know what cement prices are, you know what steel prices are. So the reduction in premiums was kind of a balancing factor for the cost. So if the bottom line is conserved, and if and if we can get the financial closure of a project, so nothing like it. And this benefit was passed on. Actually, the premiums is passed on, the benefit by way of stamp duty to the actual consumers. And I must say with great pride that we at Meritco decided that over 1,000 projects, which we were, on ongoing projects, would not charge a single penny to our buyers. So, so we had assured Aditya Thackeray when he came on the webinar. We told him that if you reduce the stamp duty, this entire benefit we will give it to our consumers. So this, all these factors together are, responsible and for the, the demand that was already there, the pent-up demand, which we can see now. It's my personal view that better times are still to come, and it's always the right time to buy. So I always tell my friends, my buyers, that don't wait for the sun to shine. It's already shining very nicely. So please buy it now.
Well said, sir. I think let me pick up some cues from what you said and go to Chintan from Ashwin State Group. You said new set of buyers, which is the millennials, which is the young home buyers, likely to spend more. They want tech in their space. They want contactless, demanding buyers who've been working from home for the last 1.5, 2 years. And Sheth had a similar, 3-decade experience, diversified over the years, international exposure. We've grown up looking at Sheth when we look at projects like Beaumont, the mall that they developed in Thane. And we always said that they made destination and addresses which weren't. And investors say that's where they made the real money. So Chintan, on that, which pockets now do you think are emerging in a city like Mumbai? And where would you advise these youngsters to buy a home?
Hi, Gautam. Thanks for having us here on this panel. And thanks for that very nice introduction. And also letting people know where we made our money. So, so I'll fall back on conventional wisdom when it comes to, deciding or even thinking about which is going to be the future or what are the markets that we should look up to in terms of, a residential upswing or, basically what are the hidden pockets in Mumbai where we can look at. I think the conventional wisdom is always that, wherever there is development in terms of infrastructure, development in terms of a government push to grow in any particular area, that is where, real estate development, residential development, commercial development follows that. So in Mumbai, you've seen a lot of infrastructure drive from, the BJP government, and then that's being carried forward by the current government. And you see metro coming in across different parts of the city, overhead, underground, the coastal road, which is making a lot of progress, as well as the east to west links and the trans harbor bridges. So all these things put together are actually connecting Mumbai in ways that are yet to be, is yet to be explored. So there are a lot of places that were probably considered far or considered not to be actually part of Mumbai are now slowly, going to make their way into the city. And I think COVID has taught everybody that, if your place of work is closer to where you live, it's definitely a bigger luxury than, having anything else. And, this whole work from home, people have seen that once the offices have started, people are begging to come back to offices. So the whole work from home idea is sort of turning on its head. And a lot of these big giants, the tech companies have started announcing, they're calling their people back to offices. Obviously, smaller businesses like ours all have been pulling in our customers and our employees into offices for a long time. So going back to work is slowly becoming the norm again. And with COVID coming in, I think it's a huge boon, and it's taken that psychological step, across that boundary of this whole argument of rent versus ownership. I think that has been laid to rest in COVID. All the millennials, all the guys who used to talk about, we are in the world of Airbnbs and Ubers, have now gone ahead and booked apartments left, right, and center. Any and every inventory in this city, I think, which was ready to move in, was grabbed. Everything was sold, and people are now talking about escalating prices in under construction projects. So that entire sentimental turnaround happened in a matter of 6 months. The fundamentals haven't changed really. I mean, a 2% stamp duty cut. See, all these are all just pushes that have taken people over the edge. People are sitting, like Mohanani sir said, that the demand has always been there. We are a population of 130 crore people, and we don't have housing. That thing is that overarching umbrella has been there for last 25-30 years. So the demand's always there. It's just a matter of a sentimental push over the edge for people to make that purchase, and today is a great time to do so. So having said that, I think the millennials want to be in places where they can access their workplaces very easily. And with these new ideas of having a hub and spoke kind of a system, a lot of larger companies also thinking of having offshoots, smaller offices closer to where their employees live. So for me, if I had to place my bet on what are the areas, what are the suburbs which will do well going forward, I think these are places which are sort of on the peripherals of Mumbai's vision, or Mumbai's or a residential, you could say a top 10 list. These are not, they don't kind of measure on that list today, but these are places I feel in the next 5-7 years would definitely see a lot of traction. So say places like Daisar, for example, which is on the western side. It's already a very established residential location, but the pricing, the infra, the kind of attention it has got is absolutely been second like a second cousin or second sister to Borivali, Kandivali, Malad, that belt. So there is one place I feel the connectivity is very good, and it could see a lot of upswing in the future. Another area I feel on the central suburbs, Mulund is another sleepy suburb which has phenomenal potential in terms of becoming a residential hub. The Sion, Vadala, Chunabatti belt, which thanks to the BKC connector and the other connectivity and infrastructure development, is another hub where there's a lot of availability of open land, large projects, townships, gated communities can be built in these areas which are not crowded, which are not dense. So these are places I feel that the next generation of buyer who's looking not to have a home, in a fancy suburb, but also looking to have amenities, looking to have a gated community feel. They want to have, all their lifestyle elements in the same complex where they live. And that has really been escalated. That feeling has come out post-COVID when they have lived, in their home. They've been cooped up in their home for 3-6 months, and then they realize, boss, what, I can't go to the gym. I paid for the membership for 5 years, but I can't attend that gym. Building mein hona chahiye. So that idea has really taken root that your basic amenities should be close to you, and those can only be provided by large developments, and that those can only happen where that kind of land is available. And fortunately for us, the infra push in Mumbai has been in those directions only. So I would say these 2-3 belts, I feel, another one, I think Kanjurmarg also, which is sort of at the cusp. It's, it can east and west, Both are easily reached by the suburbs. So these are suburbs I feel are still lagging behind, and they today are very affordable in terms of pricing for the new age buyer to go in. But over time, they would see escalation and they would see the growth. So that would be my take on.
No, that's quite insightful, and thank you, because I agree the Eastern Corridor and land being a scarce commodity in our city would be where Eastern Corridor seems to be developing pretty fast, and in the western side towards Daisar. Let me bring in Pankaj, who's like Sapna defined its scientific approach to real estate pricing and forecast. And I'm going to throw in the different segment to him, wherein the Model Tenancy Act was implemented recently. And you mentioned, Chintan, about the Ubers and the Airbnbs. So, Pankaj, what's your view? The rental market is likely to grow, through an opportunity given favorable policy initiatives, increasing formalization of the industry. What impact would the Model Tenancy Act have on the residential rental market? Are developers exploring multifamily projects in India?
So, Model Tenancy Act, if you see that, it has streamlined the interest of the landowners and the tenants in that sense. So, and basic premises for the Model Tenancy Act was to bring in the locked up supply of close to 11 million homes, which were as per 2001 census, were vacant homes in the market, and to bring it in the streamline of it. To look at that, whether the builder will be able to plunge into this particular segment, rental markets and all those things, we need to look at the rate and return regimes of India. So if you look at the yields in residential is still in 2.5% at most of the places. And the interest rate is in the range of probably, if you take any weighted average capital cost for any kind of a real estate projects is standing between, best of the developers, even if you consider it's close to 13%, not less than that. So it makes really, a kind of a thing like, do we have got those regimes available where developer can really come forward and invest into the properties, which is yielding assets, especially residential, which is yielding just 2.5%. It really doesn't really look like. I have recently done a couple of studies on the rental housing, but mostly I found, these are the location specific, whereupon the industrialists wanted to use their land for creating affordable rental housing schemes for a migrant population who are coming from 3 hours, 4 hours away from their workplace, and they wanted to create, like we did a study in the Sri Perambadu recently. And I found there was a merit to it because the people were coming from very far away places, and and they were resorting to be living into village informal housing, and in one house 4 people, 5 people are living. Industrialists were finding, yes, they can increase the productivity, they can probably retain the employee for longer period of time, and they were willing to really subsidize the land cost. They were willing to really subsidize the rentals for them and all those things. That is where the viabilities really stood out, especially when you consider the region. If you analyze the rental market is mostly into the market where the cost of capital is 2% and the rental yield is 5.5%. For India, it has to reverse. Like we are into a different curve. This curve has to change in that sense. And my own sense is too early for developers to move in. Maybe institutionals or industrialists may find it ways to really create affordable housing. I don't think the builders can move in and purchasing a land and then building long-term assets and where the yields are pegged to just 2.5% and 3%. It doesn't really ensure that many builders will be moving towards developing rental housing per se, in the current rate and return regimes in India.
No, fair point, Pankaj. Let me bring in a segment that you spoke about, which is the affordable. Rohit from Poddar Housing, across segments, pioneers in the affordable in a city like Mumbai. And as Dr. Hiranandani was saying, COVID seemed to have accelerated sale across segments, including the medium-term trends which have been seen in the market. What, according to you, is the trend acceleration that happened for the affordable residential segment during this last 9 months?
Hi, thank you for having me on the platform. So a very good afternoon to everybody. I think there's been a cannibalization of demand to developers with a track record. So I don't think that there's been a broad-based sell-off basically in under construction inventory. I agree with Chintan that whatever was ready for possession largely has been sold. But I think that too I found in affordable housing to be there for developers with a track record and infrastructure which has been already available for people to have a decent quality of life. So I personally feel that the number of developers that we actually had in the MMR were a very large number, and the people and developers who had the pockets to basically not play the skinny capital game, but play the long-term game, they've actually come out much stronger during this difficult time. And also the trend that Chintan spoke about regarding lifestyle and quality of life, that's basically shown through in this sector as well. Customers basically want to have everything available close by. I'll also add a school and a hospital because in the MMR it's possible to actually have that. And across our projects, we've actually put up a school and a hospital as well. And that's been a big demand driver for us and for other developers also who were able to do this. If you go back to the early days of Thane Ghodbunder Road, 96, when Chintan's family also, I think, started construction at that point of time along with Mr. Hiranandani, there were only 4 or 5 developers. And that area only got a fillip when developers put up infrastructure for public amenities. And slowly, that the area became, with attracting more and more population because amenities were available for people to have a decent quality of life. So whether you're on a Badlapur or a Kalyan or a Thane, the trend is pretty much the same. And hence the people who have larger tracts of land who have the money to develop these infrastructures and also housing along with it, those are the ones who are actually selling. So I would say the small developer who was building 3 or 4 or 5 buildings with no amenities, the traction has been very low. And remember, in these MMR areas also, the main driver was mass urban transport of the train, and largely the train has been shut since the middle of March last year, and until the vaccinations reach a significant number in double vaccines, this won't actually restart in any significant way. Based on the numbers that I've seen on the news, we're expecting this to resume by December. And I think the traction will also improve significantly since then. There's been an absence of buyers at destinations which are serviced by the train for this time. So there's a lot of pent-up demand in addition to structural demand that Ashok ji spoke about. And I think that we'll have a lot of pent-up demand playing out at these sub 25 lakh rupee ticket prices post December. And like the eminent panelists have mentioned, you have structurally very favorable winds that are basically blowing in the direction of the home buyer, including extremely low home loan rates. And Pankaj had actually come up with a report a few months back, stating how real estate prices had not really gone up much in affordable housing in the last 7 years. But the income levels had actually risen by, if you take even 10 or 12% a year compounded, the average home is now 3x of their combined household income, down from 5x or 6x in 2012. So 3x of combined household income with a 6.5% income, with a 6.5% home loan rate, and also the trend of dinks, dual income, no kids, the millennials, and also single families that want to buy their own first home, moving away from the joint family system. And remember, also in COVID, we had a very interesting trend. Our foundation received thousands of phone calls every day from we're a helpline for basically mental health, and many women called saying that they're very sick of their husbands and their in-laws living in the same house as them, and they're not able to stand this craziness because they used to see the husbands leave early in the morning, coming back late in the evening, and there's been no kitch pitch in the family as such because everyone's busy with their own lives. Now all of a sudden you have so many people living in the same house, kids are unable to go to school, and the bahu of the family basically has to unfortunately get the dandi, as it were, for managing all the scenario. So many of them are actually pushing their husbands to either rent their own houses or to buy their own houses. And given the pandemic, wives actually make the call. So people have been wanting to buy houses. So I think come December, Jan, you'll see a large push into these 1 hour plus distance markets from say a Churchgate or a VT station. And I think the numbers will increase significantly in Q4 of this year. Thanks.
That's interesting. I think the divorce lawyers have done better than the real estate lawyers in the pandemic, given the perspective that you mentioned about husbands not being able to leave the homes. Let me bring in Ram here, who's been building affordable homes in Bandra, I would say, and had a phenomenal success for the first project that he did. Not too accessible from a public transport perspective, but very popularly the luxury segment, the Khar, Santa Cruz belt, where you've done very well. Now, Ram, from your perspective, there seems to be an
Thank you,
increase.
Gautam.
Sorry?
No, go ahead.
I think there seems to be an increase in demand for spacious homes in the post-COVID period. Now, what is driving this demand? How are developers adapting to this change? What could be the right size? What do you think is the right size for a family of four? Just as a perspective, I know it's very difficult to put that number across, but just to understand basis.
So I'll give you a quick perspective from where we're coming from, literally the other end of the spectrum from where Rohit comes in. But the problem is the same, irrespective if it's an affordable buyer or a luxury buyer. The problem is exactly the same. People have spent a lot of time in their house over the last 2 years or so. And think about it, all your corporate MNCs, all the top level executives have never spent so many hours in their house from morning to evening that they've done working from home, giving their one of their rooms to the kids to school from home, one room for the parents, one parent is working, other parent might be working, might not be working. Flexibility of space is, I feel, become a very big requirement. Currently, we're developing one of the largest developments in this neighborhood. It's about 2 lakh square feet. The project, the way we've designed it and planned it, is that we've got a lot of apartments that are connectable. So what we've seen is Jodi flats are the way to go, because there is no one size fits all. There is nothing that says what is the ideal 4 BHK or the ideal 3 BHK in our area, because everyone has a different requirement. It could be a family of 3 people, but yet they want 4 rooms. One room they want for their entertainment, one room they want for their kids' school, one room they want for their office. Yet they want a terrace, they want a deck, they want multifunction areas. So flexibility in planning, I believe, is the real requirement in luxury housing. And in all our projects, what we've seen is everyone is who's living today in a 3 wants a 4, who's living in a 4 wants a 5, who's in a 5 wants 2 5s. So basically, that's what we've seen across this last year or so. And the pandemic has been a silver lining for the real estate market from all perspectives, like the way all the prominent speakers have been talking about. And in all of these factors, creating flexible spaces, I think, are very important, because there is no one size fits all.
No, fair point. And I think the industry resonates with you, because when we look at the data from DLF, Camellia, if we see Artesia of Raheja, some of your projects, and the panelists who have developments which are larger luxury homes, the demand is more for the Jodi apartments, or they're buying the entire floor out where, so for example, Artesia has 175 apartments, but they're saying only 100 families would live there. And these are pricing of 20 to 25 crores. So it's not even $1 million.
So exactly on this point, our new light over here in Khar, we have 84 units. We'll have only 50 families living there. And the pricing is anywhere between 10 to 20 crores.
Well, let me bring in Chintan. Chintan, who do you think, because we have these millennials, and I'm sure they also have this kind of money coming in from the tech and the startup world. Every day the newspaper talks about $1 billion valuations and Series A, B, C rounds of funding. So who are these new buyers? Are these the techies? Are these the professionals, like they were always taking home loan at 6.5%? Or the NRI market is also booming in the luxury segment?
So we are not actually doing much in the the ultra luxury beyond 8-10 crores. That bracket we have consciously stayed away in the last decade or so. But even in the bracket of, let's say, 2 to 5 crores. So there's a lot of so tech, especially if you'd say, has seen a lot of money coming in the last 3 to 4 years. When money comes in, obviously it brings in about increased salaries, better disposable incomes for a lot of people. But a lot of that money obviously is going to people who live in Bangalore and Hyderabad and those kind of areas. Only a small segment of that, I think amongst the unicorns that are there in this country, I think one of them or two of them are actually headquartered in Mumbai. The rest are all in Bangalore or Hyderabad or maybe NCR, I'm not sure. So I don't know how much of that has actually come to Mumbai as a change or as a new trend in demand. I think bigger housing, more flexible spaces, as Ram has said, is definitely something that we've also experienced in terms of feedback from our customers and people who walk into our sites. But in terms of new demands, I think what people need more than anything else is actually a gated community feeling, better amenities, more space for their kids, especially to go out of their houses, hang out, play, do some extracurricular activities. I think that has been a huge, that's something that people are ready to, they're ready to trade off, in terms of a location, if they can get better amenities. So that is something which we have seen for sure.
That's interesting. I'll bring in Ashok ji here again because he's probably seen multiple cycles in the industry. What's your view? Should the state increase the FAR exemptions, scrutiny fees for green buildings? When I'm saying they should increase the FAR because, like Ram said, 84 apartments, Raheja is saying 175 apartments, Chintan is saying bring in the amenities there. So it's very difficult to kind of play with all coming into one development. What would be your view, and if you could share with the group?
Yeah, so Gautam, before I take this question, I like to add on to what Ram and Chintan just said about the demand and about the luxury segment. So, we have various, profiles who are buying the luxury space. They are the entrepreneurs, they are the professionals, they are the millennials, they are the IT sector, they are people who want also nuclear families would like to buy. So like Ram said, from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and etc. So this is actually, so it's a mixed breed who's right now coming in to buy, the luxury segment. And moreover, people have made a lot of money, tons of money in stock market. So it's a cycle. It comes back to real estate. Somehow it comes back. And, entrepreneurs are doing well. Most of the industries are doing well now. A lot of encouragement by the central government as well as state government. So that really boosts, industries. And therefore, this money is coming back to real estate with a simple, basic reason is of, having your own space, designing your own space, and having a better lifestyle. So this is what, I would like to add to the previous discussion. Coming back to what you said about the FAR, I think after the UDCPR, the Uniform Development Control Rules in the entire state of Maharashtra, I think it's a level playing field. No longer do we want more FAR. Okay, we've got enough and more. This was the struggle, 2 decades back, or even a decade back, about FAR, about FSI. But now I think we can't even utilize, if you want a good planning, it's not a great idea to, completely utilize the entire FSI, because that also comes for a cost, like the ancillary FSI comes for a cost. So you have to, decide how much you want to utilize. So there is no dearth now of FAR or FSI. So I think the government has done a great job. It's a, kind of a balance. So they want you to buy it. It doesn't come free. So you see how your project has a financial closure, how much you want to buy, what portion you want to buy. You have that that liberty to buy the entire. Like now, if you're talking about CBD, okay, so many projects are coming up, for the central business district, so which you can go 5+ fungible. So if you're going to use 7 FAR in CBD. So what more can a developer expect? Or so this is only going to increase the supply, the FAR. So one has to be very, very kind of calculative and see his project cost, and so it's going to be individual driven, and of course location driven, how you want to consume and what you want to consume. So I think we are very grateful to the Maharashtra government as well as center for supporting real estate.
That's a fantastic and a fair point to at least admit that we have enough and more, and the government is also getting a pie with the premiums that they're charging. This question was for you, but I'll probably ask Pankaj that today we read in the morning the Swami had a success with the Borivali project. So Pankaj, what would be your view on this, regulatory incentive side? Is Swami boosting the morale of the residential industry?
It is. In fact, if you look at the projects which got stuck, were the major reasons where the realty sector was losing the consumer confidence. And if a fund which is coming for the resolutions of those stuck up funds and all those things will certainly be. And having said that, I feel that going forward, we will be requiring much more bigger size of such kind of funds or more funds to be available in the market, because COVID has, although in one side it has stimulated the sales because, interest rates, stamp duty concessions, everything has really brought the fillip into the sales sides of it. But there was another side of it, which is like construction progress on the projects which were halted for almost 6 months or 9 months has really created a vicious cycle where, as per our data, we were mapping the construction progress on 15,000 projects across 60 cities in India. You would be surprised to see around 40% still hasn't really started the construction. So they would be needing some kind of a last mile funding and things like it. So I do feel that it's a need of the hour. More money is needed for such kind of thing. And there is one fund which is looking forward for the resolutions of those projects which got really stuck due to the paucities of fund or whatever could be the reason, will certainly be a booster for the confidence for the consumer. So I think this is well in time, and I think more funds, such kind of funds, will be needed in coming future.
No, well said.
I just add, Gautam, I just want to add to what Pankaj said, about Swami. So Swami has, they want first charge, right? They come for a cost of 15%. So the existing lender is generally not comfortable conceding first charge to Swami. So therefore, you've seen, Pankaj, that only 72 projects have, taken Swami funds, have taken the last mile funding. And what amount? Out of 25,000, only 6,995 crores have been disbursed. I think we need much more funds. At least 5 or 6 funds like Swami, okay, who can be a little bit more amenable and, not insist on first charge. Maybe they can go for pari passu charge, or, we can work out something in a way that this last mile funding actually should be utilized for completing of the existing projects, which is very, very essential. The intent is there to complete, okay? But yes, we are falling short of financial help, and therefore it's our urge to the central government, okay, to the Finance Minister, to look at more such funds. Of course, we got ECLGS, which was really, really beneficial. So 20% of and now the next ECLGS, which came with 30%. So I think that is a great move, okay? And that came only for about 8 and 8.5% cost.
Yeah.
So compared to half the cost of Swami funds, if you're getting the funds at ECL, I think this has been a great move by the government, and again request them to look at more such funds for completion. That's it. Thank you.
Ashok, that's a very fair point. The green money, of course, will always be cheaper given the sustainability drive of the country, I think rather globally. Rohit, bringing you in with the costs going up in terms of cement, steel, do you feel price appreciation is around the corner? What more could we do? Because obviously the margins are increasing, but the input cost has been rising over the years. Petrol has hit the peak, and probably Mumbai will probably see 150 rupees before we see it. What's your general view on the input cost impact on the business?
So currently prices are not going up, in my opinion, on under construction affordable housing units. I think customers want to basically buy, given the overall structural sweet spot that they're actually in, and so hence because the prices aren't going up currently, the margins of developers are actually obviously being squeezed because you have a fixed selling price and your input costs have actually gone up. So again, if you go back to a cycle maybe to 12 years back, very similar situation, 15 years back, very similar situation. And very, very difficult to predict how the asset prices will actually rise. If you look at the inventory overhang that we had in 2004-5, it was much less than what we have now. But given the amount of money that's come into the market, if inflation goes up, asset prices will also rise because money will find its way into basically financial products, and real estate is one such thing. So structurally, it seems to be the case, but obviously it's very difficult to predict. I'm not an economist. Maybe Pankaj Bhai can tell us what his view is on appreciation of prices. Our view is that basically the customer must see value in their purchase. So whatever is being packaged as a product and sold to them, they must see tremendous value in that to make them buy today and not tomorrow. And our endeavor is to basically make sure that we are able to give the customer a very good quality product with great lifestyle at a very affordable price. And I think once one has that mindset, as opposed to saying we want appreciation of price to occur, then customers basically, understand that it's a good thing to do. And really, it's a volume game like any other business. So I think the days of 15-20% capital appreciation are long gone. And it's basically now a business where you have to, because of RERA as well, which has been a very good change for organized developers. They want to actually make sure that you're an efficient producer of your product, and you're able to basically churn your money, as fast as possible. So I think the business has moved away from how it was before, where you were almost incentivized to be delayed. Because if you go back to the days of the 2000s, each time you delayed a project, you actually made more money. Now it's actually the reverse scenario, where if you actually delayed, your IRRs basically go for we go for a 6, as it were, and you have to basically make sure that your IRRs are basically up to wherever you've either committed internally or to all your stakeholders. So that's the game. So I think this mindset shift is very important, and I think the people who will actually survive and do well have already made this change.
Fair point, Rohit. Bringing in Ram again, in the luxury residential space, we saw a lot of branded residences, plotted villa developments, so you can call it second homes. What kind of amenities would we see in these kind of luxury residences wherein, post the pandemic, wherein these plotted developments, and of course, in cities like Mumbai, there will always be far and few due to the unavailability of land. What about second homes in terms of models where operators run it on fixed rental and revenue share arrangements? We've seen this probably, and all of us would have experienced in this last, when the travel opened up and everybody was running for places like Goa, Alibag, it was hitting the roof. And primarily it is because the second homes were moving into a model of operator run, either on a fixed rental basis or they have a revenue sharing arrangement of 70-30. Do you think that would lead to a splurge in luxury real estate?
Sorry. So yes, this market is extremely exciting and interesting. The second home market in general. Most of our first home buyers through the pandemic had literally either in Alibag or Lonavala or wherever they had their farmhouse in and around Bombay, they were rushing there to your Ambi Valley plots and stuff like that. And whoever didn't have it said, "Oh my God, I wish I had a second home today." So there is that demand that suddenly came up, which did not exist before that. And some of our projects are currently being actually run by Vista. We are doing a couple of projects with them as rental projects, which we're not selling, because the ROI on the rental, as Pankaj was talking about earlier, for residential ROI is about 2%. But when you look at these projects, we're at about 8 to 10%, which is REIT level. So that's actually quite exciting and interesting, where there is a great demand for second homes. There's a great demand for people buying second homes and even leasing second homes. So the investor demand is there as well. And the regular customer who says, "Oh, I want my own private pool, I want privacy, and I want some open space. I'm living in a 2-bed, 3-bed, 4-bed. For the weekend, I want to get out." And we've seen at least a couple of our own villas have been running at about 70-80% occupancy.
That's phenomenal. I think the good part is now you have professional bodies willing to run it, and like Pankaj threw some light on the Model Tenancy Act, which also helps because you know that there wouldn't be a situation wherein they will take possession and not return it back. Chintan, what factors, as per you, drive the investment in real estate in terms of residential? Earlier, we used to do it purely from a protection perspective. Is it capital appreciation which is leading to this splurge in demand right now? Sorry, I was just asking you in terms of what factors have been driving investment in the residential real estate recently. Is it capital protection? Because like Ashok was saying, a lot of liquidity that got generated in the equity markets are sooner or later going to find their way into real estate. Or is it the appreciation? What's your view in terms of the kind of segment of buyers you've been catering to?
Well, I don't think it's the share market boom that is. That money's not come in yet. I think people are still pegged into the markets and the kind of returns people have been getting used to in the last 3-6 months. Real estate cannot keep up with that kind of escalations. But what I feel, what is driving more than any kind of a mathematical idea or a model or a understanding in terms of capital appreciation or any such thing, I think what is driving real estate is the fact that from every side the message is that this is at the bottom of the whole cycle that you are, in terms of pricing, in terms of payment scheme schedules, in terms of obviously bank loans, in terms of stamp duty reductions and everything, plus the whole the premium discount that the government has given to developers, which has been passed on again to the customers. So all those things happening together, you hear everybody just talking that the fact that this is at the bottom of the price cycle that you see now. So anybody and everybody who's ever thinking of buying a house in the past 2-3 years has woken up and has gone to the market and started exploring. And real estate is fundamentally, the buyer side especially, is also a very sentiment driven industry, right? It's not just about, oh, I want to buy a home and I'll buy it. People tend to look for homes over over long periods of time. There's a family consensus, there's the financial arrangements that have to be made. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind before a guy actually walks into a site. So all that is also then influenced by people who, his friends, families, advisors who tell him not what to do, with which developer to go with and stuff like that. So all these things, all the it's like a 360-degree experience that happened for a buyer in this last since October of last year, September of last year, that COVID came in, and like Rohit said, that people could not tolerate staying at home with their in-laws and families and stuff like that, and wives are pushing husbands to move out. That was one big sentimental push, apart from all the other outside pushes. So everything came together, and that's what's driven the demand. And I think that'll keep driving the demand for some time. And this is my understanding, that the capital that will flow in from the earnings people made through the share market stuff, I think is still a bit away, because I don't think we've seen the end of the share market. The liquidity in the market is too high, and the number of retail investors in the market are growing every day, and the numbers are they are astounding. So that segment has changed. The nature of the Indian markets have changed. So that money coming into real estate might not come so fast, and it might not come in the nature or the volumes that used to come, say, probably in the previous cycle. So I think it is more to do with the fact that housing, all the factors, all the stars have aligned for the housing market in the last 6-12 months, and that's what's caused a huge turnaround.
No, that's interesting. I want to ask probably the last question before we sum it up to Pankaj, that we are all very bullish. What does the research suggest? That are we getting too excited too soon, or it's reality? There's a 6-7 years of upcycle around the corner.
It is going to be there. If you see just adding on to what Chintan was mentioning, if we have an index which is like inflation adjusted affordability and interest adjusted affordability and inflation adjusted prices curve. So if you map it from 2005 till now, you see that we are attaining the similar parities which used to be in pre-liberalization period in 2004, 2005, the market which was driven by the interest rates. So that kind of parity is the one which is drawing the people to come and purchase the property. I'm saying that there's no dearth of the of the consumer in the real estate, because it's people invest as well as they want to own that particular housing, and that's a basic reason. Whenever, so in post 2008, in 2009, 2010, when the price underwent corrections and the interest rates came down, we saw a big volumes come into back in this. And this used to be a period of 2004, 2005 with you would be surprised to know that time the overhang months inventory used to be 8 months at Mumbai. Okay. And then it went up during the financialization period, which the speculative price rise regime happened from 2008 till carried out till 2012 and all, when the prices were rising and the supply was also rising. Along with that, the sales were virtually stagnant and all those things. The months inventory went up to 63 months. Today we are at 40, 45 months and all those things. I see today's market is buyer's market, and this is a buyer's market after 15 years it's going to really live. Rohit also said that very unlikely we are seeing the prices going up. We see the volumes to continue growing from here, because the amount of lending which has happened to this sector, the sales have to continuously grow from here. So the builders are actually compelled to continue improving their cash flows. For that, there is a restrictions. Then they can play with the prices. They have to maintain the affordability. There may be certain pockets where the price appreciation may take place going forward, but as long as it remains a buyer's market, there would be a demand. And there's one more side of it. If you see the data, which is Technical Advisory Committee report on the population data at all India level, from today's population is 1.37 billion, and which is likely to be 1.51 billions. The proportion of population which is a real estate user between 25 to 55 age bracket, today it is contributing 41%. It is likely to be contributing in 2031 around 50%. So there would be 44 million more houses will be needed in India. So that means there is a big story, and that's what Niranjan Hiranandani mentioned about that Niti Aayog's perspective, that 20% of the India's GDP. And so even if it is not a 20% of this, if it maintains 7 or 8%, you would see the size of the market to grow 4.2 times. So I'm saying that there are enough riders which is indicating this trend to continue. And I do not see there are enough loopholes left out which will lead to speculative price regime, what we have seen the earlier time, when the land being purchased at a very high price, which is leading to increase in the capital values of completed homes and things like it. I think the builders today have learned their lesson. They're not buying exorbitant price lands. Lands are being discounted and many other things. So I'm saying that we are in a very disciplined manner, and from here the things looking only upside.
That's very helpful, Pankaj. Actually, to sum it up, I think the mood seems buoyant, indicating a repeat of 2004 to 10, wherein whatever you touched in real estate was gold. Interest rates did move up, land banking was happening, there was a 20% year-on-year growth, and the cycle that I mentioned, which started in 13 and lasted till almost 20, has been a down cycle. Increase in interest rates or pricing is unlikely to deter the growth, and with that, I would say the bull run is likely to continue. So the listeners and the audience, whoever hasn't, don't miss the opportunity to participate and buy your home today. With that, Sapna, I would like to bring you in and end the panel, not keeping people away from their lunch.
Yeah. So we have some audience questions as well. Also, our speakers kind of addressed a lot of questions that our audience had about the product offerings, how products are changing, how our lifestyles are now changing, how the developers are changing their strategies, and in terms of pricing, as you mentioned, that how prices are going to go up. One question that has come to us about the coastal management plan that has just been approved. So the question is how it is going to influence the real estate. What are the changes, or probably what are the impacts are we going to see on real estate for Mumbai? Gautam, for you, for the speaker who should take the question.
Pankaj, would you want to attempt it?
I can. In fact, if you look at the corollary is available when the that Bandra Worli sea link came into there, which is connected Worli to Bandra easier. You would see that the Worli and Bandra prices became same. The coastal road and the metros which are coming is connecting inconvenient parts of the Mumbai and connecting to the CBDs and all those things. That is what we are seeing, that the market in terms of the prices becoming flattish. So the higher end location slated to lose, and the inferior location which gets more conveniently connected slated to grow. So in that sense, so if you see coastal road, I'm saying that the places like Mud, Gorai, Andheri are likely, probably will see a upside, but there would be a pressure to Bandra, Worli and other sites of this because those are high price. So from high to the low, the float will move in that sense as the convenience. So I'm seeing that most of the cities in India, as the conveniences due to the infrastructure development is improving, you see they're becoming flattish in the prices. The gradations of the price which from south to north is reducing. So the high-end locations likely to really see a dip, and the lower end. And you would find the homogeneities of the demographic taking place. I am hearing that there are a lot of redevelopment in the South Mumbai is likely to come. That is also additionally putting pressure on the prices, plus the coastal thing. So the price will draw the demand to the convenience places which are which are becoming convenient, and that's kind of an impact which is likely to take place because of the coastal.
So basically, I think we'll be getting more land parcels now to develop. And you spoke about redevelopment. So one question here is also, because redevelopment is something which is unique to Mumbai. Is it going to see more interest now from the big developers as well? Because, on one end we are saying that more land parcels are going to come in. On one we say, so the prime areas are still land starved. So from probably the developers' point of view, is redevelopment somewhere where the grade A developers will be going in now? Mr. Rohit Poddar, we can start from you. Your opinion on that.
I think Ashok will be better. I think Ashok will actually be better informed to actually answer this question. We are currently only doing 3 projects in Mumbai in redevelopment, but Ashok has done several over the last 30 years. So I think I'd rather.
But do you think the developers are now, is it going to attract developers, or we are still going to see, the smaller developers only interested in that?
So Sapna, it's not about small and big developers. Every trade, is very much geographically located. Okay, so if like Ram does work in Kharband, Santa Cruz, there are many developers who are focused only in the locality. It's a very specialized job. Okay, redevelopment. So I mean, for a corporate or a big developer to get into smaller developments like this, will be a task. But yes, they have good opportunities. They can do a lot of 33. 9, they can even do 33, 10 and 14 and 11. If that be the case, where they have huge spaces, because 55% of Mumbai is in slums. Okay, so that is one area with the government support. Okay, I think SRA redevelopment will attract corporates and larger developers when the government will support it. Because again, that is a different animal altogether to get the tenants on one platform, to get them vacated. This support, if given by the government, which they are doing even now for 33.9 and 33.7, I think the corporates will enter redevelopment.
Okay. So as Mr. Mohanani is saying, some bit of probably support from the government also is required in terms of the regulations, etc. And private sector is also going to see attraction towards this. One last question we will take is, they have asked is, which are the areas or the micro markets in Mumbai that are, that will be the hub for housing?
I think, Sapna, Chintan did share some lights on it on the Eastern Corridor, where there is some development happening. So it was part of the panel question that got addressed. But if anybody would like to...
Yeah, some said Thane, Chintan mentioned about Thane, and there were some other pockets that, our speakers had mentioned. So which are the areas that we can look at will be the growth markets for housing in Mumbai?
If you see that the area of Navi Mumbai really slated to be, because it was a promised market, because in 2006 master plan itself, Trans Harbour and every other things were supposed to be getting developed. Although it took time, but they are now in the under construction stage, and then we started citing those things as getting connected. So that's kind of a lot of land getting connected to that. The places which are connected to the south, to the Navi Mumbai sectors like Uran and some of these particular regions are certainly looking forward. But I'm saying that entire peripheral regions are doing good. Extended central region is also doing good. Extended regions of Navi Mumbai and Panvel, if the location is habitable and getting connected or having social fabric, which is able to cater to the end user demand, is doing very, very good. I think Rohit ji will be in the better position to answer this question.
Rohit, we'll have your last words on that.
My view is basically the hub and spoke model. So let's say, for example, you have drivers of, let's say you take value housing basically in the city, right? So let's take below 2 crores. So basically you're looking at, say, on the resi side, you're looking at, typically speaking, your Andheri, Goregaon, Kandivali, Malad area. And then what's actually around that. So actually Chintan said that basically Malad can actually potentially do well. If you take Thane as a large hub, then obviously extensions of Thane will do well. So if someone can afford to buy a house in Thane, for example, given social infrastructure, they'll obviously buy there first. But if they can't afford to buy there, then you have Kalyan, you've got Dombivli, you've got Badlapur. And then you have Navi Mumbai, and if people can't afford to buy there, say on Palm Beach Road, for example, or anything else which is desirable, then you've got the extensions basically of that, right? So the MMR area, you've got these three large locations. I think Uran's still a while off, if you ask my honest opinion, because infrastructure, people are always a little skeptical. Infrastructure has to now come. We're talking about the Trans-Harbour Link now for the last 40 years, right? So when it actually gets delivered, then I think there'll be a fillip to that area. But there's a lot of land available in Uran right now, which is just sitting on its, it's just sitting, and you have a lot of farmer issues. Even Reliance couldn't aggregate land there in a good manner. So I think that area is still a while off. And in the city, I think the BPT actually has got gigantic potential. The government decides to basically go in for a holistic plan for the BPT. I think that's really the big driver that's left in the city. You have I think over 500 acres of land bank available there for free development. And that's a huge amount of area as a percentage of free land available for Mumbai. And whenever the nodal body, I think now it's not the BPT anymore, whenever the nodal body decides to come up with a holistic plan for that, I think that's going to be a gigantic game changer for the city. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. So all in all, I think, all the questions of our audience have got answered. Our panel members, Mr. Saraf, you'll agree, our panel members kind of covered all aspects of housing, Mumbai housing that we are seeing now. But, the positive sentiment that we have got from our speakers and Dr. Hira Nandani also earlier, so we are hopeful that, real estate this year is going to end with a real, good fortunes for Indian real estate. So on that note, thank you so much to all our speakers of the session, Mr. Gautam Saraf for so well moderating this session, Mr. Chintan for being here with us, Raheja for being on this panel, Mr. Ashok Mohanani, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your views and opinions, and Mr. Rohit Poddar for being part of this discussion, and Mr. Pankaj Kapoor, once again, thank you for being here with us, sharing your thoughts and giving us opinion on how the Mumbai real estate, the housing sector is doing. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.